Hey guys, welcome to the I Hope They Hear This podcast, and we have Nicole back on. Hello, Nicole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
So
Thanks
you,
for talking to me again.
of course. The last time you were on, we spoke mainly about your profession as a nurse, but today I
Yes.
wanted to talk more about just your life, because I feel like, yeah, you have a pretty unique personality. Oh, it's not a personality trait, but there's a unique thing about you in that you are half Korean, half Caucasian. For anybody
Yes.
who might not have noticed from your last name, but I just feel like, yeah, that would have been an interesting upbringing because there's two very different dynamics at play there. So I was hoping to kind of just talk a little bit about that, and just yeah, just your life in general for people who want to get to know you more.
Sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So can we just start from the very beginning? Like, where were you born? Like, how was it growing up as a child?
Yeah. Um, so I was born I'm hesitant because I watch this like girl on YouTube that tells true crime stories and there's always so much information about the person and I'm paranoid now. Someone's gonna
Oh,
come after me.
uh,
I'm just kidding. Okay, but I was born in Hawaii because my dad was in the military. And then I wasn't there very long. So I used to tell people like I was just born in California because they would say like, oh, like, so are you Hawaiian? Or like, what's it like over there? And I literally was just born there. And then like, a couple months later, I moved to California. Like we visited Korea, but we moved to California. So I grew up in California
oh.
until I was 18. So growing up,
What part of
I,
California were you in?
yes, that's a good question. I was in the suburbs of San Francisco, like not in the
Oh,
city.
mhm.
So Northern California.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Um, but I grew up with my grandparents, my mom's side. So my mom is Korean and my dad is like Irish Italian, white. My dad is white. He's from he's from the East Coast.
Uh-huh.
But like yeah, I grew up with my grandparents also, so I learned kind of all my Korean culture stuff from them slash my mom.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know. For me, it wasn't really different because that's all I knew. So I thought everyone kind of like grew up with their like grandparents or like, because even like church, it would be a Korean church. So I don't know. Growing up half Korean, half white, I didn't really notice
Mm.
anything when I was younger. I
So,
just,
when you were growing up with your grandparents, did they, like, for example, if you went to school, did they ever pack you like Korean food for lunch and things like that?
yeah,
So,
actually,
uh,
I have this memory in my head. I don't know what grade I think I was in like second grade or something. And my mom, like that the ujingo and it's or squid, I'm sorry. The squid that's like marinated in the red
oh yeah, the
sauce.
spicy sauce. I love
Yes.
that stuff. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, well, I love it to this day.
Uh-huh.
And my mom would pack that and just rice in Tupperware and just send me to school. So when I was eating it, like, man, so like Northern California or where I was growing up, there were still a lot of Asian kids, like not a lot of white kids, like
Yeah.
Chinese or Filipino, like I didn't feel like the minority or whatever. But still, like they would look at my food and like, ew, why is it red? What's that? But I didn't care. I was like,
Mm,
it's really good.
mm.
I just
And
ate it.
then, did you tell them that it was squid, and did they freak out
I
a little
don't
bit?
think I knew what it was. I just
Uh,
knew this is good stuff. You want one?
uh,
But you know,
so
I
did
wouldn't want to
anyone
share it.
ever like kind of question you? Because on the exterior, you don't really look that Asian. You know what I mean?
That's true. I don't know. I get mixed responses. Like some people can tell, so they don't even ask. They're
Mm,
like, "Oh, you're Asian," Or I've gotten Russian before too. But for the
mm,
most part, no one really like. It's kind of a mixed response. But they will ask like, "Oh, where are you from?" or like, I guess that the question is like, where are you basically? So, but then when I was younger, the kids wouldn't really ask, I guess. I don't really remember anyone really asking me and me having to explain why I look like this.
That's, actually, I think the fact that you grew up in California served you well because I grew up in LA as well, like the suburbs of LA.
Uh-huh.
And there were so many Asian people that when I first moved there from Korea, it wasn't that big of a deal. The
Yeah.
transition wasn't that bad. Huh, that's
Hmm.
interesting. So,
Yeah, California is like kind of like that. It's just
mm,
I didn't feel weird or different at all.
oh, that's good.
Maybe later when I grew up a little bit more. When I got
Mm.
older,
Like
and then it
older
kicked
as
in.
in like when she moved to Georgia or
That's another. I mean, like high school.
Mhm.
Uh, I think like high school, I started to, because another thing, I grew up in private school all my life. I went to a Christian school from like kindergarten all the way through eighth grade. I was pretty sheltered. So then high school, I went to a public school, and then a whole new world. It's so different, but like good. I really appreciated
Mhm.
that. But
So, like, I mean, did you realize that you were sheltered when you went to public school? Or like how was that mental transition from going to a school that was private to a school that was public? Like, how did that work out?
um, well, I think I felt like I was sheltered when like new students would come to our private school. So when I was like in junior high, like sixth, seventh, eighth grade, there were some new like transfer students, but they were from public schools. So everyone in my class, we kind of all attended since we were young and continued on. So we kind of like knew each other for like our whole lives, basically. So
Uh,
then when new students came from public school, I was like, really scared because I wasn't used to like new faces. And then also they were like very free. Like
mm,
our uniforms, they would wear it differently. And like our shoes, you would have to wear, black and white. But then this girl would show up with some red Converse and, like, ooh, you're not supposed to wear those. But then she made it look really cool. Then
mm,
I wanted to do that. So I think that's when I was like, oh, a
interesting.
little sheltered.
Huh. Was it like did you ever watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yes, but I
Because when Will Smith goes to his private school, he like wears his jacket like inside
yeah,
out. Yeah.
he was like really cool. Yes, I am Carlton.
uh, so actually, I'm glad you brought that up because something that me and my wife talk about often is, what should we send or should we consider sending our child to private school versus public?
Mm.
But having gone through both, what would you recommend?
Um, I think going to private school when I was like younger, like elementary and things like that, it was really helpful because they include like chapel, which was really boring, but I remember things from it. And also they have like a Bible curriculum. So they'll go through Bible stories or like verses and Bible verse tests. So like I think through my elementary schooling, I remember those lessons and it kind of sticks with me. Because when you're younger, like you remember Sunday school. So imagine going to school and like hearing that and being surrounded by those values, like it kind of sticks.
Hmm.
And then I don't know, like I think going throughout like your whole schooling, you're being robbed of yeah, like the rest of the world. Like not everyone is in private school and not everyone thinks like you do. That's kind of a minus in private school because you have these values that are like core. And if you're like thinking differently, I mean, it's not so serious in elementary school. No one's like, I have an opinion. But when you get older, you want to develop your own, like, gather all the facts and information and then but I think having a biblical foundation really helped me kind of stick with my roots as I went to high school because I always came back to it, like the foundation. Like even if my mind kind of veered like, oh, but I don't know, what about this the thought process? But then I would kind of be reminded, or the habit of like Bible.
Mm.
So I don't know. I think it's good to have a balance.
And
So
do you like the fact that you went kind of in your early years, but then moved to public in high school?
for sure. I think like there's more freedom. I keep saying that. I was never like held captive or anything, but it's just more free.
Uh,
You can wear whatever you want. You can express yourself. I don't know what private school's like these days, but I mean, it is really expensive. It's not affordable. I mean, it's not like you're gonna lose something if you don't go to a private school. That's not, you know, like if you can go in, why not? It's nice. But your whole school career, no. Because
gotcha.
my private school actually added a high school after I graduated, and I was like, my dad was like, I can't do this. I can't pay for it anymore.
Yeah.
Public school.
I see. So, and
So
then, and you said that you moved in when you were 18, right? Was that
yes.
straight to Georgia?
Yes. So my parents, when I was in, I don't even know how old I was, maybe fifth grade. I'll just say fifth grade. They got divorced. So my mom ended up moving to Southern California. So I stayed with my dad until high school. And then after high school, when I was 19, I moved to Southern California to live with my mom. I wasn't I wasn't applying to like universities or anything like that. My dad was very free with me.
Mm.
He was a very good parent when it came to like the divorce and raising me on his own. He didn't put any kind of pressures on me. Like he just made sure I had everything I needed and like maybe wanted even try to keep me preoccupied. He even went like took me to counseling
Oh wow.
after the divorce. Like he was a really good single parent. I
Mm.
think yeah, like good job, Dad. I really appreciate like in hindsight. So I moved after high school to Southern California, and then I just went to a community college,
Yeah, which one?
which Costa Mesa. No,
Uh,
it's in Costa Mesa, Orange Coast College,
okay, gotcha.
OCC. I loved it there so much. It was clean. Like I had no friends. I didn't know how to make friends. So like my first year there, I just went to classes, but I really enjoyed um yes, I enjoyed going back home. I don't know the dorm life or anything like that because I think my whole college career is not very traditional either.
Mm.
So 19, moved with my mom, went to community college, and then I was only in Southern California for a year though, and then we moved to Georgia. You know when you think you're gonna be like living your whole entire life in one state,
Uh-huh.
like why would you ever leave California? Like why would you do that? But here I am. It was a very, very hard move.
Mm.
Because all my friends, honestly, all my friends were in Northern California. So then moving to Southern California even was a really hard decision. Because I'm not adventurous. I like to just be comfortable. I want to know where like everything is. I want to be comfortable. I don't like new things, basically. So then moving to Southern California was like another adjustment I had to make. I made really great friends though. I got to know really like great people at a church,
Mm.
GMI. But I was only there for a year and then I had to move again. And so for me it was really painful because I felt like, man, I finally like have friends. I didn't think I was gonna make any. And then like now I have to move to another state and Georgia. Honestly, like why? It's not even like, up north, like in, northeast, like,
New York.
Pennsylvania, or like New York, like, Georgia, the South. I don't know anything about the South.
Yeah.
Like,
And
all my friends were like, you're gonna say y'all now. And I'm like, never.
yeah,
But it slips here and
yeah,
there.
yeah. And just for context for, because I realized a lot of people in Georgia think that San Francisco and like Southern California, I assume like the LA area, people think that that's close because it's in the same state. It's not close at
No,
all. Yeah.
it's like an 8-hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
7, because we drove down. God,
Right.
it was
It's
really
pretty
long.
much here in like New York. So
Mhm.
uh, just in case people were wondering why she was upset about going to Southern California,
Oh, yeah,
the
y'all
farthest
look
away.
at a map. Like if you compare the ends, like California reaches all the way down here. If you look on this side, it's like 5 states. So it's pretty far. It's
Yeah.
pretty far.
And
But
so why did the move to Georgia happen?
so California got really expensive. So
Mm,
my mom's business, even like too much competition in California or where she was at, and so like also living costs. It's just it's it's odd. It's just super expensive in California, northern and southern. So Georgia, though, I mean, houses are more affordable. Like what you would pay for in California would, I mean, like let's say you pay this amount and you can only get maybe like a 1 bedroom apartment. Whereas if you spent that over here, you can get something like maybe even a home.
yeah.
Like it's just the price is, I don't know, it was more worth it for her to move over here. And I had an aunt that already moved here from Korea to
Mm,
like from Korea to Georgia. And so she kind of talked to her and was like, how is it? And they looked around and made the decision. And I mean, some of my friends sometimes they're like, why didn't you just stay in like, Southern California? But again, I'm just not that type. I wish I was like, yeah, I'll just find my own place and stay here. But yeah, I just wasn't that cool. I had to follow my mom
uh,
and then moved here to
mm.
Georgia.
And just so people understand the price difference, I only know this because I lived in Southern California too. If you can get like in Georgia, you can get a 5 bedroom house for like 300,000 or like 400,000, right? I knew a friend in Southern California who had a 5 bedroom home. He had a pool in his backyard, but it was $2 million.
Yeah.
So the price difference isn't insignificant. It's very staggering. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I can totally understand. And I think around that time is when a lot of Korean Americans actually moved from California to Georgia. There was a huge influx of Asian Americans from other parts of the U.S. into Georgia, like when people realized that the real estate here was really cheap and cost of living is super cheap.
Yeah, I would like drive around and like if I saw a California license plate, I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, everyone's coming. Okay, so it's not just me. Like there
Yeah,
was hope.
yeah.
Like I hope I run into someone I know, but
So
well, kind of. But
wait,
yeah.
have you ever run into anyone you knew from California here?
Yeah,
Oh,
actually,
how did that
yes.
happen?
Well, I don't want to like mention them
Oh, okay,
because what if they don't want to be known
okay. You're right.
or
Right.
associated with me? Just kidding. But there are, and then I had another friend that went to school here from where was he at? Maybe we went to the same high school, and then he went to a university here for schooling. So I saw him, and
Hmm.
it was just here and there random.
Yeah, yeah. See, there you go. It's not a that unique of a move, but I
Right.
can totally understand your feeling of having to, like, growing up in California and having to live here, because I didn't go through the same thing because I only lived in California for 6 years of my life, from kindergarten until sixth grade. But
Hmm. Hmm.
I was still like devastated. I was, why Georgia of all places? So
Yes.
I can only imagine
Yes.
for you having to make that move.
Yeah. And then like this was I guess how long 10 years ago. I mean, a lot of the things that we have now weren't around. Like
Yeah.
boba was not a thing.
Mm.
You had to drive really far to go get it. Now it's, down the street. I don't know, that's just one example, but like it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, like
But
when I came here, there was barely any Korean food. You would have to go to like Buford Highway to get
mhm,
anything
mhm.
decent.
That's rough.
Yeah, there was a lot of just trees all over the place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, where are the people at? It's all trees. Why are there so many trees?
Yeah,
It's so different.
for sure.
But it's
So
good now.
I want to kind of go back and ask you about growing up with your dad, because you said your
Yes.
parents split when you were in fifth grade, right? So
Hmm.
does that mean at that point you were just living with your dad for an extended period of
Yes.
time?
So it's very interesting. I just remember some parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the house that we were living in, and then I remember when my dad told me that they were getting a divorce. And then we stayed in that house. My mom moved actually, and then I stayed with my dad in that house. And then my grandmother, my mom's mom, also stayed with us.
Oh, wow.
So my grandmother kind of raised me like, I guess, as my mom. But I also had an aunt that lived close by too, my mom's sister. So I did have like, I was raised with love,
Mm.
even though like my mom wasn't around. But my dad, yeah, I lived with my dad. And then when I was going to high school, we had to move because I needed to go to this high school.
Mm.
It was just I think it was just a better neighborhood than where we were at, and the high school that I would have gone to. My dad made very good decisions. He knew me so well. It's like the high school I think that I would have gone to would have been like, just, I don't know if I would have adapted very well. Like the high school that I did go to, Mills High School, it was like in a what do I want to call it? It wasn't like a retirement community really. It's just a quiet area.
Mm.
Just, I don't even know how else to describe it. Just very suburby and like clean, and I don't know. I felt safe there.
Mm.
I don't know if safe is the word. It was just a nice neighborhood.
Mm.
So we moved there. So then I went to that high school, and then man, it was rough because my dad had to downsize, and I think that was really hard for me. We downsized twice because my dad's single parent.
Right.
We're not making the same amount anymore. So at one point, my grandmother also moved out because we had to downsize a lot to like a 1-bedroom. So my dad stayed in the living room and I stayed in the bedroom. So it's kind of like that. It wasn't bad though. I will say like my dad made sure like I never felt like I lacked anything or like was missing out on anything. Like
Wow.
I adapted very well. Yeah, my dad was, I can't say it enough. He just did a really good job.
That's awesome. Wow.
And he was a dad. Man, I had to write, okay, as a girl, you go through changes, right?
Mm.
Like I had to write him Post-it notes. Dad, I need to go get some of this stuff. And I would just stick it on his desk. And then he would just drive there and I would just get it and then, come home.
Aw.
And then there would be moments where I'm like, I need eyeliner. Can you go buy some eyeliner? So then my dad would go to Walgreens and like pick a few because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right, right.
And then he would give it to me and then I guessed. I didn't know how to do it. I just figured it out. Rough times. Rough
Wow.
times. Because we didn't have like YouTube back then to have like people show you how to put eyeliner on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my dad pretty much raised me till 18. And then I think my aunt was like, you need like your mom now.
Yeah.
So I think part of me agreed. And I also think part of it was God, like not changing my mind, but kind of like tugging. Cause I don't know how I left my dad
Mm.
after that. It's hard,
Yeah, I'm sure.
cause I didn't see my mom the entire time since the
Wow.
divorce. Mm-hmm.
So from 5th grade until you were 18, you didn't see her?
Mm-hmm. Maybe like once or twice in the like beginning, and then just, I mean, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't have a car. Like, what
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
gonna drive? It was just. Also for me, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Almost. That's kind of how I am. So.
But when you were living with your dad, your maternal grandmother, like your mom's side grandmother, also lived with you. How was that like?
Again, my dad is a very good guy.
Wow.
He my aunt would take care of her and stuff, like give her things that she needs, and like financially I don't know what the situation was, but like my grandmother, my dad kind of just wanted her around so that like I could like, have Korean food or like have someone at the house to like kind of take care of me.
Yeah.
Because he was working all the time. So I don't know, with my grandmother though, because I've lived with her since I was, baby, because my grandfather passed away when I was like 7. So my grandmother continued to stay with us. So, that's all I knew. And it was like, I thought everyone lived with their grandparents. I thought it was weird if you didn't live with your grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really nice to have her around. And I think like during my puberty moments or episodes, like she got the brunt of it. Like my grandma would have to bear my attitude. So it was hard, I'm sure. I even like feel bad about it. But then I remember we were walking outside one day and I told her like, I'm like treating you like I would treat my mom, so like when I get mad at you, don't take it personally. I think I kind of knew like these things happen and I would normally be, yelling at my mom, but she's not here, so I'm pointing it at you. So don't be mad.
Yeah.
Kind of. Because, she's my grandma. Like, who does that to their grandma? It's so disrespectful. But listen, I didn't have an outlet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So
And,
was your father's grandmother or like your father's mother? Was she not in the area?
no, my dad's entire family is in Pennsylvania.
Oh, I see.
So we would make trips and visit, like during the summers.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Then when you moved from Northern California to your mom in Southern California, did your
Mm-hmm.
grandma come with you? Or was she
Good question. I forgot about that. So she lived in San Francisco for a couple years on her own. So while I moved down, she had her own like kind of apartment there. And then a couple years later, me and my mom went and picked her up and dragged her over here in Georgia.
I see. And I'm curious about that too, because you said you were in a college for a year in Southern California, but your mom decided to move to Georgia. So
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that you transferred schools to Georgia?
I did.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So like when I first moved to Georgia, it was rough. Like I really thought we were going to move back. I hated it here so much. Blockbuster was still around. So I just rented movies for 3 months and watched them. This might be sounding weird, but let me tell you something about movies. Like if that's all you do and that's all you're watching, it gets a little dark. Even if you're watching like a safe genre, like there's something. You just don't feel like whole. And then, yeah, I don't know. So I learned, don't just watch movies for 3 months straight. There's some message there and it's not good. But I felt that. And so Blockbuster went away. And then I had to.
You like caused it going away.
If anything, I prolonged their opening. Okay, I made them survive 2 more months. But I really put off registering for school and starting up again. So I think I took a year off. It just happened to be a year. And my mom didn't say anything because she knew not to touch me. It's very sensitive, okay? Very sensitive. But I think at some point I was like, I just got to go back to school. I'm surprised she didn't push me. It's crazy. Because I think like, if I think of my mom, like she's Korean, first of all. The drive for school and education is there. But I think she knew like I just needed time. And I came around on my own. So I went to Georgia Perimeter College in Dunwoody. So I think Georgia State kind of bought them. I don't know how it works, but they're under Georgia State now. But when I went, they were just a community college on their own. So I started back up then. And I don't know, finding a major was hard. Like figuring out what I wanted to do was really hard. Just did the general education. I was going to do early childhood because I thought that's what I wanted, but I don't know. You know, like kids, I chose early childhood education because I was like, I am not going to learn like hard math. I can't teach that. And like science and stuff like that. But you know, like A, B, C, easy. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. But it's harder because they absolutely don't know what it is. So you have to teach them. That's like the hardest thing to do. Yeah. And like reading, oh my gosh. Like coloring, staying inside the line. This is all very hard to teach. Like the easiest stuff, the foundational basic stuff is the hardest thing to teach, I feel like. So shout out to teachers. I'm so glad I didn't do that. I'm really glad I didn't do that. I wouldn't be a very good one. No patience. Did
you actually take like early childhood education classes?
I did.
I see.
I did. I had to sit in and do hours and, you know, like observe and do all that stuff. And it was just not what I wanted to do.
Gotcha. So then,
yes.
Did you make the jump to, you know, wanting to do nursing straight from where you were in early childhood education, or did you have to like dabble and explore other things first?
I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew it wasn't early childhood education. And then I was like, well, then now what? Because then I thought, oh, maybe English major and then, you know, do tutoring or whatever. That was another idea. But then I was like, oh, you know, actually, even when I was in Southern California, I wanted to do design. I wanted to do fashion design, but it just never worked out. And I started moving. So then I thought, oh, like I've lost my touch. And my mom said it's a hobby. So let me just not pursue that. And then my uncle, my mom's brother, he's a doctor in Korea, but actually he went on missions to like the Middle East, like as a doctor. And so he really felt like it was a useful tool, like medicine. Like you'll always have a job, but then not only that, like if you wanted to use it to like, you know, help people, like it's always needed. People are always sick. So he felt like, you know, why not think about doing that? And I think if it came from my mom, it has come from my mom. I said no. I said, I hate blood. Like, I'm going to kill people. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, like the confidence level was real low. But then when my uncle told me, I think because it came from like a male figure, it just kind of, it sounded logical instead of like greedy. Is that bad? Does that sound bad? That's how I think. I feel like when it comes from like a woman, maybe not a woman, okay, in my life at least, if it came from like an aunt or like my mom, there's like an alternative, well, what am I trying to say? Like different motive. Ulterior motive. Jeez. Good thing I didn't go with that English major. But I don't know why. I think it's just how I was raised.
Maybe
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said women. Don't come at me.
Yeah. Maybe it's more of like the way that you perceive your mom and the way that you perceive your father. Yeah. Like, it sounds like you really trusted your dad and you really like, I guess, gave it to you straight, right? So
yeah,
maybe
and
that's
he didn't
why.
push anything on me. Like it was always very like, what do you want? Like, you know, like he trusted my choices, I guess. Yeah. So when it came from my uncle, like I trusted. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll give it some thought. Even though my mom said the exact same thing. Yeah. Because oh, she's gonna be so like, oh, would it? Anyways, so when he said that, I really thought about it, and then I started to get like ambitious. And I thought, you know what? Let's try. So I had to, oh my gosh, I had to start all over. I had to take my prerequisites for nursing, and it's all science, whereas early childhood education is not science at all. It's like totally different. I had to start all over again. I basically spent too long at GPC, but I got them all done, my prerequisites, and then I only applied to one nursing school because I was in a hurry and they wanted the least requirements. Like they didn't want extra testing or an extra like class or anything like that. So I just applied and then got in. And so for me, that was what?
That was Emory?
Yeah, they really didn't want too much. They just prerequisites and I don't know. God, there
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
The Lord. I literally, when I got in, I was like, I know now. Jesus, you wanted this. But for me, I really like, it wasn't like, oh, like I want to help people and this has always been what I wanted. Like it was never, for me, nursing was not that. It really just fell into my lap. And I feel guilty about it sometimes, but you know, it's not always like that, you know? Sometimes you don't know what you want. And then when it comes to you, you're like, oh, this is nice.
Mm.
I think this suits me. And, you know, it just, that's how I got into nursing, I guess. It's
You
not
know,
very extravagant.
it's interesting to me because when I think of Emory as a nursing school, I think of it as like top tier in Georgia at least, right? So to
Right.
hear that that was kind of your path of least resistance, that's very interesting to hear.
I mean, I don't, because the deadlines were all different. I think
Uh,
Georgia State and Mercer and anyway, those were the only two I was really looking at.
mhm,
The requirements for Georgia State they were all different, but the one that I fulfilled, Emory. And like I just thought, you know, let's just go. And then in my head, I was like, if I don't get it in, then I'm gonna apply for, you know, Mercer and Georgia State because their deadlines are, you know, different or the
mm,
requirements. I would need more time to finish those requirements. So I had a plan, but it was gonna be that year.
mm,
Because I was old. How old was I? I was like 25. And then everyone I went to school with was like, you know, 21, 22. So
uh,
even now in the workplace, like I'm pretty behind, or I feel that way. Like everyone is really young or they're my age, but have been in nursing for, you know, like 7 years. And I'm only in my, third year. So I am pretty like late, but you know, there's,
yeah,
everyone has their own timeline.
for sure. No, that's
Yes.
so true, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's something that the listeners can take away. Eh, the
Yeah,
timing of it really doesn't matter if I
right.
think about it. Yeah.
It's something I struggle with a lot, like the whole timeline thing, even being like half Korean and half white. Like, I think my biggest struggle with it was I just wasn't fully one thing. Like, I was always in the middle. Or like, and then even grades, like I was never failing, but I was never really like thriving either, just average. And I think in me, I always wanted to be like hot or cold. I hated being in the middle. But then like that's who I am. Well, you know, you're half and half. What can you do? But then, you know, it's nice because like you get to see, I like to see it as like the best of both worlds. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. Anyways, but like timeline wise, even today, like I don't think it ever goes away. Like, you know, you could be married, you could be having children, you can be like, you know, buying a house, you know, all this stuff. But then I always complain to God, like, why does my timeline, like, did you like not connect it here or somewhere? Like, what is wrong with my
Uh,
timeline? It's like hilly, where everyone else seems to be straight. But I mean, I'm sure everyone has like, you know, different, their timelines all look a little different. I'm always just thinking mine looks extra different. But yeah, I always have to remind myself like everyone's looks different. Like, and then in God's ultimate timeline, like, you know, you're just, you know, like a little dot. So don't worry about it. So I just try to keep thinking that way. And like, you know, James is always telling me, um, you know, stop comparing your timeline
yeah.
and stay in your lane. I try to do that.
And for those of you who don't know, James is her pastor boyfriend who
Oh yeah, I was trying to keep him out of it. I wanted
yeah.
to just be me.
Okay, all
Dang
right.
it.
We won't talk about him then. Okay,
Yes, I am more than that.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about nursing as well then, because our first podcast together, we did kind of talk about your nursing journey. So
Yes.
for those of you guys who don't know about it, please go back and listen to that. It was super interesting. But I'm I'm interested in hearing about the current state of nursing right now in America, because as you guys know, I mean, COVID, some people call it a second wave. Other people are saying this is still the first wave. We're just seeing a resurgence. How are things in the hospitals?
I can only speak for mine, and we're kind of like a smaller hospital, but we had to kind of adapt to the number of cases. So we would normally only have like maybe 10 ICU beds, but we had to expand it to the entire floor. So basically any room on our unit can be an ICU. So now we went from like a 10 bed to like a 20 something bed ICU unit. So, and then on top of that, they're building more rooms, like another temporary building to hold more patients. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. I guess I do know, but I don't know. Like it might be a second wave. I don't know. Or maybe it's just the numbers are still just going back up. I don't know why or how. I guess it can be like, oh, no one's wearing masks and this and that. But I can't speak to that. But I can speak to like the experience of like being a nurse during these times. From the beginning till now, we've had to be very flexible with protocols and PPE and just how we take care of this specific patient group, like COVID patients. It was really hard for me personally because in the beginning, when it was first starting and it wasn't a lot of numbers, they were very strict with PPE. Like they treated it almost like Ebola, you know, like the whole thing. But then when the numbers started increasing, like the demand for PPE, like, you know, we're running out. And so we had to downgrade. So it's harder to downgrade, you know, and then you become like, oh my gosh, we're running out of everything. And, you know, you feel like you're not protected. Like as a nurse, like they're telling you to, you know, like kind of sacrifice yourself. It felt like, that's what it felt like. This isn't what they were intended, but this is what it felt like. We were still given everything that we needed. I know like in other hospitals, like in New York and stuff like that, they had it way worse, way worse. And like, even now I hear like nurses and doctors that were there when it was at the worst in New York City, when they volunteer to help other states, they're like bad butt people. Like they just, you know, because they've been through the worst, so they're like, oh, don't worry about it, like I got this. And you know, they're wearing like the least amount of PPE and they're not phased because they saw it was so bad. And so they say like compared to New York it's nothing, and I believe it. But it's just hard because this type of patient group, so the PPE is one thing, it's like it's very uncomfortable. Like the N95 masks is what we have to wear, and it's very tight fitting. It's not meant to be worn for 12 hours, but my unit, because we don't have like negative pressure in every room, we have to wear it the whole day. It really sucks. It just, I'm like getting wrinkles and pimples, okay? Like, I bought skincare and it's just, I don't think it's fixable. But it's better than getting COVID, right? So we have to wear that. But then on top of it, like the care for these patients, when they get sick like that. I just snapped like very quickly. They come into the emergency room and they're, you know, breathing okay, but they're still short of breath. By the time they come to us, a couple days, they're on like high amounts of oxygen and they can't move. They're barely able to eat because they have to keep that mask on, and you just see patients deteriorate really quickly. It depends on each patient. Not everyone is the same. So I can't say like every person that has COVID is like this. It's not true. But I see the worst cases, I think. Like not in Georgia, but like in the hospital. The worst cases come to us. And so it's hard. Even the age, you know, I know with school starting up again, I see a lot of high school or whatever kids. Like I'm sorry, I went out. I went to Avalon. I went shopping once, okay? I needed socks, so I went out. And I wanted to pick them and touch them, so I went. But there were a lot of kids just walking around without any masks on. And it was just very like interesting. It's different times. And, you know, when I was young, I was a little reckless, but I guess it's just the thought process. They don't think they'll get it. And there's something called, there's like, a test you can take, not a test really, but it just kind of analyzes your COVID age. So you can put in your age, your ethnicity, some comorbid, like whatever health issues you might have, lab values, and it'll calculate what COVID sees your age as. So you might be 22, but COVID looks at you and says, you're 55. And then you'll kind of like, yeah, so you really like can't say, well, I'm so young, it's not going to affect me. It's just not true. And you just never know. I think that's the scariest thing, is that we don't really know set in stone things about this, you know, about this virus. It's just, it keeps throwing curveballs at us. Like it'll make you throw clots. People get strokes while they're having this virus. And, you know, you just have to keep looking out for everything. And there's patients that do recover, but the long-term effects, it's like chronic lung disease. And I feel like in the future, that's what we're going to see. Just the scarring that it leaves in the lungs, it affects your breathing. You might not have the virus anymore, but the effects of it lasts. So it's kind of hard to see, and they're very debilitated. They have to do a lot of rehab, and yeah, it's just a nasty virus, man. It's just very not okay, and very unfortunate. And to speak to like the mental aspect of it, like as a nurse, I think I can speak for all my coworkers. We've all had a patient that really shook us. I try not to get too attached anymore, because you never know. Like our managers will cry, like really like veteran nurses, they're also in tears, because it's just never easy. Like no matter what the illness is, even if it's like, oh, they're gonna die, it's like, well, still they're a human being, and like you get to know them, and like it's just so unfortunate, because you're the ones telling them like what do you tell them? I had a patient that he was like, I'm just so tired, and he was like, I just want to die. And like I'm like, oh my god, like I was like, what do I say? I feel like, and then I put myself in his shoes, and I'm just like, I mean, I would too. Like, this is horrible. Like, how can you tell someone, no, it's going to be okay. Like, you'll be fine. Like, I couldn't even say that, because the moment I say that, like, I might be lying. So I didn't know what to say. So I was just like, no, let's keep fighting. Like, here, let's eat. Like, you have to eat and do this. And, you know, it was really, this patient really lasted for me, because I bonded with him. He showed me pictures of his like grandchildren and stuff like that. And then, you know, I really thought he was going to get better. But, you know, when I came back, like he had died that morning. So I was like, it like really messed me up that day, because I had just told him, like, you know, I had just spoken with his wife too, and said, oh, he's doing fine. Like he ate, and he's like, you know, just resting now. And then that's why it's like, I don't know what to say sometimes. And, you know, they tell you never to, you know, give them false hope, you know, but it's like, man, what do you say? I just don't have the words. And I think right now, because we're still in it, like we're like running on this, it's not adrenaline, but you just don't really have time to just sit down and rest and think about it. But if and when this all passes, I think a lot of nurses are going to like look back and reflect and just have kind of a hard time like processing it when we do have that downtime too. So that's why we're trying to like tell each other like, oh, you need to, you know, self-care, you need to talk it out. Like if you have to cry, just let it out. And I think my unit, at least the culture, it's very like safe with that. And I really appreciate everyone I work with, because we really do take care of each other. And if someone's overwhelmed or like crying, like there's a really great support system. And I think that's really important when it comes to the workplace, because it's very high stress. When things go down, it like really goes down. So like you have to work together, and you know, when it passes, then it's like, okay, you did good job. And you know, like it's just little things that really matter. So nursing, had I known it was going to be like this, would I have gone to school for nursing? No. If I'm honest, no, I don't know if I would. I'm like a early childhood, maybe education, like, oh, I guess I'll do nursing, and then boom, this hits. But I think no regrets though.
Mm.
I think God knew, like, had this happened, you would never have gone into it. So apply, go to school, get ready, and now you're in it.
Mm.
So, but I'm glad. I do enjoy going to work though. As stressful as it is, I look forward to it almost because yeah, there's I guess it's something I can do. I'm not the best all the time, okay? I have my days. There are more like bad Nicole days at work than good Nicole days. I'm gonna be very honest, but I think the fact that this is what I wanted to do, like to do in a sense that when someone is at their most vulnerable state, like to be someone that encourages them. I think that's what I wanted to do, and I'm not the best at it, but I'm learning, and I think that's what this time is really helping me do is like tap into that, you know, like kind of get over the whole task list and giving out meds and try to learn how to connect with the patient and kind of just, man, encourage them. Like I can't imagine thinking like this is a death sentence and like just waiting, you know. Yeah, this mhm.
Are you taking care of yourself? Like, are you able to
Me,
like?
yeah, I'm shopping.
That's good. Good.
I take care of myself with like I recently bought a bag for work. Like
There you
that's
go.
I treated myself, and yeah, I mean there are healthier things I could be doing. But yeah, for the most part, I think I do take care of myself. I don't let myself get too burnt out because this is not going away.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm very proud of nurses.
Yeah. Wow. That's a side of COVID nursing that I don't think people hear very often. Kind of the mental stress that it not just. I mean, even aside from the fact that you're having to be so cautious all the time, worried about catching it, worried about possibly spreading it to your friends and family, but also, you know, because I'm sure. I mean, just looking at the number of deaths that we have COVID related, it's a lot of nurses are experiencing what you experienced with your patient. So even that kind of mental stress, I don't even mental trauma, maybe even. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, before all this, like patients still passed, they still died, but it wasn't like this. You know, this is another thing that really wrecked me. Like, I was imagining, because there was one patient in the very beginning, the first patient that I had that passed from COVID, I just couldn't handle it because the wife was able to visit. But the last time she saw him, she was like, I mean, I was talking to him, I dropped him off. And that's literally the last time she saw him. And then she gets a phone call saying, hey, like, he's on the, you know, breathing machine. And then the next phone call is like, hey, like, you have to make a decision. And I just can't imagine that, you know, like you just drop off your loved one and you think like they're going to be there a week and come back, you know, and they don't. And like, yeah, I don't know. I think that part I've kind of had to block out because this isn't going away. This is like what I'm talking about, like later on. Like, I think when we all look back on this and kind of reflect on all those patients we took care of and family members, like, it's gonna be like, dang, like we went through a lot. And
Yeah.
then, because then you think, like, what if it were my own? And then you just kind of stop. Like, you can't really keep going and like entertaining that thought because it's too hard. And it's unfortunate, but because it's so like frequent that we have these patients, it's hard to like keep that compassion almost sometimes because you just have to keep going, and this person isn't the only one. Like, actually you're one of many. So how do we keep that like compassion for them even though it's like it's just happening so much and so often with so many people? It's like hard to give them all that care. I think that's hard too. So I have to keep reminding myself, like, Nicole, like, this is their one and only, you know, like, to you it's one of many patients, but for them it's like they're one and only. So you can't talk to them like they're just one of many patients. It's like, this is their one, so you have to it slips my mind, like, you know, it's very hectic. So I always feel bad, like, I always try to, like, you know, get my hey, sure, call anytime, but even that we don't allow. We don't allow visitors, and
Right.
yeah, it's kind of, it's just the worst time to have someone in the hospital or you yourself be in the hospital. So,
Well,
yeah.
then let me ask you a question. For listeners who have family members or friends who are nurses, can you think of anything that they could be doing for their friend nurse, or sister nurse, or whoever it may be, to help them in these times?
Um, I think even just like a text, like, you know, letting them know that they're doing a good job still, because I think in the beginning we were doing this really well and it was very encouraging. Like, people would like Venmo each other, like gift cards, like Starbucks, like, hey, grab some coffee. Like, it was really encouraging. But because now we're like 6 months in, I always joke. I always joke about this. I like walked around my unit one day and I was like, you're still important. You're still a hero. You still matter. Like, you know, I was just like, we are still important, people, because lunch stopped coming. Not that that's a measure, but, you know, it's just like, yeah, how long can we do this for? And, you know, it's not going away. So just encouraging texts like that, and you know, ask them how they're doing. Like, you know, did you, like, if they, like, ask them how their day went. Maybe sometimes as nurses we can't really share everything that we're facing because no one really knows that language and what we deal with. It's kind of unfamiliar, so we kind of stick with like sharing with our nurse friends and stuff like that. But if you have someone that's a nurse and they kind of try to tell you about their day, like, even if you don't know what it means or what's going on, just listening and, you know, I mean, act interested. Don't just be like, yeah, I'm hearing, I'm listening. But, you know, like, oh, and like, how did that make you feel? Like, even if it's empty, like, sometimes we need to just talk it out too and let it out. And, you know, our nurse friends are, maybe they worked that same shift with us and they're tired too. We can't really talk to them right away. So yeah, just, that's my best like advice or tip off the top
to
of my head.
to be encouraging and also be a listening ear, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's great. Also, okay, also one thing, this is not important, but this is a little pet peeve of mine as a nurse. When businesses or like doctors' offices, you know, they make you fill out a form that says, you know, have you been, like, they make you sign it basically, like, I have not been in contact with anyone with the virus in the past 30 days. Well, as a nurse, like, then, like, what do I do? You know, I've had coworkers say the same thing, like, well, this is literally my job, so I can't get a checkup. And so some people will do like telehealth, I don't know, like, where it's virtual, but it's like, I don't see how that's fair. You know, anyone can be working in an office and I don't see them swabbing them when they come inside to work every day. You don't know. And like, it's the people that are in the offices that they don't know that they're sick and they find out a week later and then the whole office is shut down. Like, as a nurse, I just feel like we're kind of being punished for going into work and being in contact. I mean, not even contact. We're the most protected, actually, if you really want to be technical about it. Like, we're the ones really wearing the masks and everything, protecting ourselves. So that's just one pet peeve of mine, because I went to get my eyes checked and I just straight up signed it. I said, yeah, you know what? Like, I need contacts. Well, how are you gonna like look at my eyes? It like virtually, you can't. So I didn't even feel bad. I wore my mask. I kept a distance. I was safe about it. But I think that was just a little weird to me. I don't know. Don't come at me, please. I do understand, like, everyone has a right to protect themselves and businesses and whatnot. But man, like, when it comes to like checkups, like let's not dismiss nurses and doctors because they're treating and taking care of people. Like, I don't know. That was just my
No, that's a good point that you bring up, because it's odd that they should have like a separate column that says, well, are you a healthcare professional?
Yeah.
If you are, then you should be able to. Yeah.
And then like if you need to accommodate me separately or something, like, let's do that. But don't dismiss me and say, we'll see you online. Like, I'm not going to see you online. Like,
and that's, like, yeah, you're right. You know how like several months ago, everyone was saying, oh, nurses and doctors, you're heroes and all that kind of stuff. But is that really how you treat your hero?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Then for me, it was like, well, then just don't call me a hero. Did I ask for that? I didn't even ask for that. Like,
at least consistent. Yeah.
Right. And anyways, even if you didn't do that, like, this is why we're in this profession. Like, we chose this. We know what we got ourselves into. And, some doctors and nurses don't. And they're like, oh, I can't, work with them. I mean, that's their own issue. But I feel like for the most part, healthcare workers that signed up for this, they did it knowing what they were signing up for. That's why, to all my fellow, high school, college students, make sure you want to do, healthcare before just jumping into it, because you don't know, like, if this pandemic is something that you don't want to deal with, then I don't know. Think twice about it. Go into law school then. Or I don't know. Do what you feel God is calling you to do, not what your parents are calling you to do.
Amen.
Amen.
That's good advice. That's good advice. All right. We're at the hour mark, but there's something else I wanted to talk to you about, so we're gonna let it go over a little bit today.
Okay, sorry, I talk a lot.
No. It was all really good stuff. But I wanted to talk to you, like, I wanted to fit it into your story, but I didn't see a good opening, so I'm just gonna ask, how did you get into the creation of felt decoration? Because for those of you who know, the person behind the People of Victory Instagram,
oh gosh,
did you recently change the name to People of Victory?
I did, because yes, so I'll talk about it.
Okay.
This came up maybe, I guess it was just only a year ago. I really liked fashion design, and so I really liked making stuff, and so because I had to let that go. Oh no, I didn't even relate the two, but because I lost that, I think when when nursing was new to me, I said pandemic, when nursing was really new to me, I was really stressed. I think this was my self-care, making stuff and things like that. And then, I got into this whole identity thing. Like, if I'm not a good nurse, then what am I? Like, I suck, and, it kind of attacks your confidence at work. Like, you kind of feel stupid sometimes. Like, if a doctor says something and it was like very obvious and you don't catch it, you're like, oh, I suck, and I kind of placed my worth in how good of a nurse I was. And so then I was like, no, this is not right. And then, I had to go back to the Lord. And then, that's why our identity in God is so important, because that has to be the one and only thing that defines us and not anything else. So I went back to that, and then I thought of like our names. In the Bible, they were naming children and it had meaning. Like in the Bible on the bottom it says, like, this name means this and this. And so I just thought, like, our names are very important. I don't even think like our parents realize, maybe they named you without a thought. Like my name, there was no thought to it. It was just, it's pretty. But I know that there's some divine naming happening even in those moments. So I think I got a gift from someone in the past, and they wrote my name and the meaning. So my name means People of Victory. So that's where the Instagram handle for my felt stuff came from. I just decided, let's just do it my name, People of Victory. And then I really wanted to make name banners because everyone around me were having kids. And what do you buy a newborn? I don't know. So I thought I'm just gonna make this, and they can hang it on their wall or hang it on their door, and just decoration, sentimental, handmade. Like, you can't buy this.
Mhm.
Maybe you can now, but anyways, back then I
There
was just
you go.
making it as gifts. That's how it started. And I also wanted to do names because every newborn baby is given a name, and that name holds meaning. And I'm sure, like, God, oh yes, I am sure God definitely has, planned everything out for them even before they were born. And, they need to know this, and they need to seek God and find out who they are in God, and then live out the exact destiny and plan and life fulfilling purpose that God has put on their life. Like, yeah, that's what you're put on this earth for.
Mhm.
Not to just, just get a job and whatever. I mean,
Or
that too, but
just watch blockbuster movies for 3 months.
yeah, like, that is your name Blockbuster? Is your name Hollywood? No, I don't think so. So that's kind of where it came from. And then the 43:1 is the verse from Isaiah. And I don't have it memorized because this is how I am, guys. I am not, I would have loved to have just memorized it, but it's become like a very encouraging verse. um I don't even have it like saved anywhere. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Um, but I do want to read it because
Yeah.
it's, I suck. But you know what? It's okay because this is not my identity. Okay. It says, but now this is what the Lord says: He who created you, O Jacob, he who formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. And I think that really defines you. Like, you are his. That's
Mhm.
it. And so no matter what your name is, and some meanings, like, I couldn't find like a biblical meaning. And so I had to just ask them, like, what did your parents name you? Like, but why did they choose this name? Maybe that's why. Oh, like, perfect, like Aisley. There was no biblical name for Aisley, but like, the heart behind naming her that, it's beautiful. Okay. Like, it doesn't matter if I can't find it in the Bible or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, every baby, every person,
Yeah.
every name is
Yeah.
important.
The banner you made for Aisley, by the way, it's still in her nursery. So pretty. I'm gonna attach a photo of it on the Instagram post that goes out.
Yay.
Yeah. So and you kind of alluded to the fact that maybe now these banners might be available for purchase. Um, is that is that something that's happening, or is that something you're working toward?
I'm going to keep working towards it. I think I'm just I'm just being a scaredy cat. I'm also just concerned with like time because I am picking up extra shifts
Uh,
because we're really short in the hospital, but that's an excuse. Um, but yeah, if anything, sometimes, like, if it's like, I'm kind of just taking orders through the Instagram, like, just messaging, because I had an Etsy, but man, I'm just grandma with technology. I don't know. So I'm just kind of doing it over direct messages
gotcha.
if you're interested. Um,
Guys, if you know someone who is having a baby, this is like one of the most precious, best gifts that they can get. It's
oh,
so
you're
worth
too
it.
kind.
And also, it's one of a kind. You make it custom for every name. So, you know,
This is true.
yeah, it's the name banner of Aisley that we have in her nursery. There's none like it anywhere else in the world. So
That's
even
right.
yeah, it's very awesome. So yeah, that's great. I think listeners, I think we should encourage Nicole to start up an actual Etsy page to
Uh,
to move toward that because yeah, I think it's such a good gift to give. Even if it isn't for newborns, even if it's just for someone who's been alive
yeah,
for many years, yeah,
absolutely. Could do
it's a good
capital
gift.
letters for grown-ups, okay? We can do that.
Yeah, and that's the great thing. You can actually like ask her, hey, can you do lowercase, capital? Like you can kind of provide input because she's going to be making it. That's
Yes,
awesome.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I encourage you, Nicole. To
Thank you.
keep at it.
Oh gosh, yes. You are the person that keeps me accountable always with this banner business.
Yes, yes. Well, no, well, Nicole, thank you so much for being on today. It was I actually didn't really have an idea of what we would end up talking about, but I think we talked about so many good things, like your upbringing, your like the whole situation in the hospitals, and even your people of victory. I actually had no idea your name meant people of victory. I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
yeah. So that was really
Yes,
interesting to hear. And
yes, yes.
any last parting thoughts before we close for today?
Um, just thanks for having me. I hope I didn't ramble on too much about nothing and that it's encouraging to someone. And yes, I am available if anyone would like to talk. I'm here. And yeah, I don't know. Thanks for having me. It's always
Yeah,
fun doing
yeah,
this.
awesome. Well, if you do want to contact Nicole or give her encouragement or anything like that, any of those messages can be sent via email at IHTHTpodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram at I hope to hear this or on Twitter at IHTHT podcast. And any messages meant from Nicole will definitely go to her. And on if you check out our Instagram post associated with this episode, I will have linked or tagged Nicole's account and her People of Victory account, so you can go check out all of that. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. Wear your masks, be safe out there, and if you have any nurse friends or family members, just send them an encouraging word. Yeah. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.